What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Skatepark Showcase. Behind me is the Hub skate park in downtown Brunswick, and this is a very special episode, not only because this town has a special place in my heart, but also it's an indoor park. I never get to do indoor parks. I'm super stoked. Let's get into it. Brunswick, Georgia. The reason why this has such a special place in my heart is that I grew up about an hour west of here, and we used to come here all the time as teenagers. A little bit of backstory, there actually used to be a skate park in downtown Brunswick, just a couple of blocks from where the Hub is now. I spent a lot of time in my youth driving to this skate park. It was called Rock Bottom. It was in a warehouse space downtown, and we used to skate it all the time. Got a lot of footage here, got a lot of memories here. That was before the St. Simon's Park existed. That's before the Glen Park existed. I've covered both of those on this show, and there was no skate park in Waycross where I grew up for the first few years that I skated. Rock Bottom was one of the best, close skate parks for us to come to. So definitely have a deep connection with this town, and it's really cool to see that even though there are other skate parks in the area now, there's another one downtown, indoor, and they're doing some pretty awesome things. Brunswick is about an hour north of Jacksonville, so it's a pretty big area. Brunswick obviously isn't as big as Jacksonville, but it's a decently sized town right on the coast. And like I said before, there are two other skate parks very close to downtown Brunswick. There's the Glen Park and the St. Simon's Park. So the Hub is in downtown Brunswick. Right when you pull up and walk in, you're gonna realize that it is not just a skate park. It's got a lot of other things going on. Thankfully, I was able to get an interview with Doug, who runs the Hub. I'm gonna let him, in his own words, talk about the organization as a whole, and then we're gonna get into breaking down the skate park itself.
The backstory for the Hub goes to where me and my wife, we got married 16 years ago, and we were both in corporate world, both chasing climbing the ladder, salaries and income. And then slowly about year 3 was when I started feeling really pulled towards helping the next generation, just because of my background when it came to drugs and alcohol and females and parties. That became my lifestyle. And so when I was 22, 23 was when my life drastically changed. When that shift happened in my world and I started finding a better way to my life, the stuff I was already programmed for, which was money and career and the house, the stuff, the motorcycle, the toys, none of that stuff really appealed anymore. So I'll never forget, just really feel drawn to trying to go help youth find a path for their life that were in the same places that I was. I was a youth and college pastor at local churches and other things, and then ended up shortly after that going, okay, there's so many kids inside of a local church ministry, that's beautiful, but what about all these kids out here in the community? And so, that's when the vision for the Hub really got sown in that season of life where, there's so many kids that are out here that are trying to find some place to connect, role models or examples or people helping them, teaching them. But if nobody does anything for that, then they're just out there like I was, trying to just grab from wherever. And so I became a full-time, what I would consider local missionary. And my wife, she stayed working in corporate world to just provide for the family. And I was doing the ministry or the work. And so I started teaching kids how to surf and doing skate club type stuff. And as we're doing all these things, we started having so much favor with kids. I just kept investing my energy and effort into it. And I had somebody donate 10 boards to me, and I started taking kids surfing in the summertime. And I started seeing how they would come to life just being able to do something they wouldn't be able to do otherwise. When we started hitting 400 kids per summer, a lot of those were repeats from the years before that. And I did a fundraiser for 52 days, and we raised right under $50,000. And then throughout that whole summer, we're just looking for a place where we could do something to continue to do our work of just winning favor, to build relationships, to get in their hearts, to help them find life. That's our 4 main pillars of what we try to do. And so that's where the Hub came to be, was through all those experiences of my past, and what I wish I would have had was a healthy environment or some people around me, or somebody to be a good, consistent life type coach for me, or somebody even just be a role model that was worth looking up to. Wishing I had that. Now here we are 30-something years down the road going okay, now we're providing a place where kids could consistently come and have a place that they get championed, they get cared for, they get known, So when we came in here, like the outside looks rough, the inside was completely different. And when we started gutting the place and like tearing out the carpet and all the like messed up stuff, like behind us, nothing like that is in here now was here except for just the walls. But so we have like one little area with a 70-inch TV, and we have a handrail around it. We have all these like cushy seats in there. We call that the living room. And the whole goal of this is for kids to be able to come and have a big screen TV where they could watch like how-to videos, or they can see like energy sports, you know, like Red Bull TV type stuff. We also use that for our life study groups on one night a week. We have like a retail shop, or a little small one that's it's kind of a startup core shop where we have surf and skate gear for sale. And so right now it's like we're selling off all our old surfboards from last year's surf camps, but we're gonna start building boards. We have 3 shaping bays that are located inside that. One room is for glassing and painting, another room is for shaping and sanding, and it's like full manufactured, got like the whole system set up where, I mean, you could go in there with blank and shape out a board, turn around, detail it, paint it how you want to, glass it, and then take it surfing. So eventually we're gonna teach kids how to build boards, but everything we do in the shop, the whole goal long-term is to sell and not take money from it, just put right back into more gear. So we have a retail area, and really the heartbeat of that is like, how can we put good gear so the kids can skate and surf better and longer and more. Also, we have like a staff zone, which is kind of behind the counter, and so we turn into a staff zone and we put like all the stealable stuff back there. But whenever we do events, like the staff's always behind there. We also have a point of sale system there where we sell our goods. We have a little cafe feel type spot where right now we have like a couple tables and chairs where kids can sit and hang out. Like when people walk into the hub, we want it to be a place where kids go, man, I just want to hang out. We have a school room, which we're turning that into a multi-purpose room where we'll have after school tutoring for kids who need help with different subjects, and we'll have the college is going to partner with us and send students over during the school year. We're also turning that room into a conference table room too, where like the classroom can morph into a small group setting room where different groups or people could come together to have meetings in that room. So then we also have a small production room we're trying to create where the idea of it right now it's still got like 1970s wood paneling on it, but we want to set it up to where somebody could come in and do like YouTube or podcasting, or kids could come in, and we do a lot of videos and documenting and still shots and stuff. So we want to make a production room where kids could use that to come and see what we do and how we use technology to display what we're doing, in the hopes of letting them do a better job of displaying who they want to become. Above the shaping bays, we built a loft, kind of like a little patio that we call the loft, but just a seating area, and that also overlooks the skate park. So like parents and families or siblings or friends could all sit up there and like watch people skating. When we do events, like it gets packed up. We have a woodworking shop. We've got a lot of tools that we use to build the skate park and to frame out all this stuff, but also we're gonna set it up to where kids can come in and make things like little woodworking projects, but just teach them how to use tape measures and drills and saws and like simple mechanic stuff. And so when we were just trying to find a place to rent, there was a bunch of different options we had. But when I walked into this place, the back area, I remember walking back there, it had like 14 car engines on the floor. There's like 8 car bodies sitting around in here. Through all the oil, the grease stains, and I mean just like all the junk, I remember looking around going, man, I could so see a skate park back here. It took us 3.5 weeks just to clean the floor off. And I mean, that was like scraping. We bought these big shop brushes and gallons of Dawn. And I mean, we were just out there like for 3 weeks straight, 5 days a week. We would scrub, scrape, pressure wash, and repeat. But once we could skate on it without sliding, that's when I got some local guys that skated that have some influence in the local skate scene. Guys like Donovan Norris or Aaron Yeager, and just some of these different guys that I knew and caught wind of. I'm like, oh man, like Aaron Bass. And I'm going like, dude, I've like known you guys. Like, this is what I want to do. Would y'all mind coming and checking and looking at this place? At the same time, like I had a guy named Judd who I came in contact through an organization called Skate GMP, and they turned me on to Judd Held, and he's a guy that's a pro skater still, but he also is a ramp builder, and man, when we just like taped it off, and then we started like drawing out on grid paper, like, okay, this is what we could do, and everybody made these little designs, and I mean, daily we're just messaging back and forth, like, what about this, what about these things, what about these things, and we finally like settled on design, and I sent that to Judd. And we got a date pinned down for Judd to be here. The idea that I've always had for this is like, we're not gonna be able to build the perfect skate park. It's just like, there's no way to squeeze everything you want into there. But knowing what our mission is to champion the next generation of skaters and showcasing really good, the older generation of skateboarding. It's like, we can build the perfect park for this spot, you know? So if we can't have everything, what can we have to where we could help locals, like kids, get started and get like a good environment to get started while they can see really good skaters come and showcase a lot of the skills that you'll find in street skating or in like transition skating. Yeah, so when we were designing it, one of the wrestles is when there's already a park. I mean, people would always say like, dude, there's already a park in North Glen, why don't you use that? Why don't you use the one on the island? And it's like, well, we have been, and we've been using those. The challenge is when I go to a public skate park, it's like I can go out to North Glen Skate Park, and if I'm bringing kids to teach them how to skate, I'm invading on the space of all these good skaters locally. So you're not winning any favor with local skaters when you roll up with 12 kids and like they're trying to learn how to push, and all these guys are trying to get long lines and like get their flow. So there's like already those, but then we also want to be really practical where like if you go to North Glen Skate Park, I mean it's a concrete, it's got really good flow to it. I mean just the way they build that park's incredible, and there's so many features that are amazing, but like for a beginner, that's a really big park with very little forgiveness, and even like the 4.5 foot or 5 foot like spine section that they have in the two back bowls, I mean, it's really steep, the transitions are sharp, and it's like for those kids, it's not that there's like vert on it, but when you're a beginner, I mean, it felt like there's like a foot of vert on that concrete spine. So there's no wood park in Glenn County, or wood ramps. We wanted a spine ramp so kids could learn how to transition from our 4 foot with a 5 foot extension, but we made the transitions like super mellow transitions so that it'd be really good for beginners to be able to feel what it's like to drop in and get up on the spine with a really mellow transition, so that when they could step up to the next places that are a foot taller, you could learn here and then go apply it there. So the way we designed our fun box with a hub on it was that like you could find the ledges, you could find at North Glen, but it's a lot more mellow and a little bit smaller. So we were really intentional with making this in a way to where for beginners and for kids, like even learning how to drop in. So we made like a really mellow ramp just for kids to learn how to drop in. So if we have like an incubator to teach kids, because we made things mellower, a little bit smaller, and with steps of progression built into them, then kids could go to the local skate park and they could actually get out there and take what they've learned here and advance it out there publicly. I would say one of the biggest heartbeats that we have here is being able to look at kids and see each set of eyes that we see is really valuable. And so the whole concept of creating a space like this for kids in the skateboarding community, it's amazing how like they're willing to go through so much pain, so much like heartache, so many falls, so many scrapes, bruises, for that feeling of accomplishment of one trick. You know, I mean, just like the progress of that. And it's really amazing to me to just see the culture of skateboarding and for these kids to go after it so bad. I mean, they want it so bad. It's like we want to create an environment that has got a lot of forgiveness and a lot of grace in that process for those kids skateboarding. But also with the grace of creating a space where like they get to receive something that I didn't get to receive. Like I didn't even have a skate park growing up. We want to create an environment where kids can come and really experience that, because there's a huge lack of it, it seems like, in our culture in America or the world. And so this is like one of our little efforts to put this little tiny 8,000 square foot box downtown Brunswick to try to show them that that's out there for them, you know, and to show them to try to find those places where they can receive it. We were really excited this year to be able to, one, have a weather controlled environment where we could host our very first skate contest. And so the idea that I've had for, I mean, years, I've been wanting to do this, is VSM Triple Crown. And the idea of the skate series is having a 3-series skate contest where it's a jam session, it's really chill, laid back. It's not like me doing my best by myself, but it's more of like, how can we put a jam series together where, you know, like feeding off of one another skateboarding, and have like youngers all the way to like seasoned. So the VSM Triple Crown, the whole heartbeat of that is to champion the next generation by showcasing the older. So like, I'm not gonna take somebody like you, Wesley, who is a really good skater, and I'm not gonna make you a better skater. For these kids though, if I can put you and let you just show it, these kids could see it and go, oh man, I didn't even think that was possible on a skateboard. How do I get to do that, you know? And so the idea is like creating an environment where it's not just about the prizes or about whatever packages they could win. It's more about being in the community of skateboarders that feeds off themselves to build each other up. We're gonna use the 3 skate parks locally in Glenn County for this Triple Crown series. And it's gonna be an annual event where we want it to continue to grow and be able to just show more people in the skate community that it's not just you out there at your park sweating by yourself. We wanna create an environment just for the local scene of Groms to be able to look over and go, man, dude, I'm not alone. Like, oh dude, this kid rips. looks and he's my age, like I could keep pushing myself too, and I could go after big things and I could do things. And even if they don't go into competition world, they could just feel the accomplishment of being a good skater, or even doing their best in front of another group of their peers, or even other seasoned skaters. So our bottom line is man, we want to showcase the older generation while championing the younger generation to see.
So the park is pretty small. It's actually a little bit smaller than the old Rock Bottom skate park, but they've managed to fit everything they possibly can in this small space and have it flow really well, and it doesn't feel too cramped. I'd say the layout is basically 3 sections. There's the small mini ramp section that has 2 mini ramps, and then on the opposite end, there's the larger mini ramp with a spine ramp in the middle, and then in the center would be the street section. So the small mini ramp section is basically exactly what it sounds like. It's 2 2-foot tall mini ramps right next to each other. Great place for warming up, and definitely good for beginners to learn how to drop in and learn their like basic stall tricks and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun just to mess around on and just try new stuff. And then on the opposite end, you've got the larger transition section with the mini ramp with a spine in the middle. It's about 4.5 feet tall. With a spine in the middle, it's nice and wide, plenty of space to skate, and there's actually an extension on both sides. Those extensions push it to about 5 or 5.5 feet. The dimensions are really good on the entire ramp. All of it's really fun to skate. Don't really have any complaints at all about it. You can definitely tell that Judd, the guy who built the place, is experienced in all of his dimensions and everything. It's super solid. I had a ton of fun skating it. I wish I could skate it more often because it's a great ramp for just having fun on and also learning new tricks. All right, so now let's get to the main section, the street section. This is the biggest section. There are a lot of elements to it, so I'm just gonna kind of like break down each individual one. On the far side, there is a quarter pipe and a bank. The quarter pipe is a lot of fun. I would say there's only one small complaint, is that the coping doesn't quite stick out far enough. It's almost too dead even with it, but once you get used to it, it's very, very skatable. It's nice and wide, plenty of area to skate, and then right next to it is a nice tall bank. Not too steep, not too mellow, great for doing flip tricks on and great for getting speed. It's also a lot of fun to hit the quarter pipe and go into the bank. And then in the middle, you've got your fun box, and it also has a little mani pad right on the side of it. It's definitely a great beginner mani pad, maybe like 4 or 5 inches high, 3 foot wide, 8 feet long, no problems with it. The fun box is definitely interesting. Since it's such a small area, they couldn't build a very big fun box, but they managed to build a lot of stuff into it without it feeling too cramped, even though it's such a small area to build one. There is a bank flat to bank. The flat's not very long, so it's easy to get over. I think it's maybe 3 to 4 feet long, and you can definitely get enough speed to go over it easily. A-frame ledge to it, so you can either pop from the flat to get onto it, or you can boost from the bank onto it as well. Typically it's hard to go from the bank onto the downslope, but since it's an A-frame, you can hit it a little bit earlier than you normally would if there was a flat there. So it's pretty easy to get onto it. And then next to that is an A-frame. The A-frame is only 4 feet wide. It can feel a little bit cramped, but once you get used to it, get your speed right, and make sure you stay straight, it's a blast to skate, really easy. And then next to that is the A-frame rail. Super solid rail, tons of fun to skate. The only downside I would say is that the rails don't meet in the middle. There's a little gap there. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't skate over that, even if it did meet in the middle, but I can definitely see some people wanting to do that, some of the more advanced guys. But other than that, it's a super solid rail. It's not shaky or nothing, feels really good. And then on the far side is the most interesting side, really. There's a bank to quarter pipe. The bank's super mellow, and then it goes up into a quarter pipe. I'd probably say that quarter pipe's maybe 6 or 7 feet from the floor, but it obviously doesn't feel like it because you've got a nice mellow bank going up into it. The fun thing about that is like you can literally pop at the top of the bank and get up into the quarter pipe because it's not like way above it or anything. So that's a very unique thing out here. You don't see that a whole lot. And that bank actually transforms into a hip. The hip is super mellow, super easy to skate. You do have to like kind of get your angle right, but once you figure it out, no problem. And then the hip transitions into this little like corner pocket where you've got like a kind of like a little bit of a bowl section. There's a quarter pipe there that's a little bit bent, so you can kind of like grind around the edge. And then also There's a wall ride, which is super dope. It's kind of like a curved bank up into the wall, but it doesn't like curve like perfectly up into it. So you gotta like slap into it like you would a bank to wall. So that's a lot of fun to skate as well. And that pretty much covers the entire park. There's not a ton out here, but I'm very impressed with how they were able to fit as much as they did in such a small amount of space. I think they did a really good job with the design and the flow of everything. Overall, great vibes. I had a blast out here. As far as I know, it's totally free. You don't have to pay to skate, but they're only open like 2 days a week. It can vary, so you have to kind of like check out their social media, their Instagram and stuff like that, and they'll post when it's gonna be open, but they usually do like Friday nights for a few hours and they'll cook and stuff like that. And sometimes they'll be open like on a Tuesday or something just to have it open for like a skate night. I love the vibes out here. Everybody's been super nice. Great community of guys. Like I know a bunch of guys from back in the day that are still out here skating and still doing their thing. It's always fun, like having a little reunion, seeing all these dudes, like we're all in our 30s, but still skating. And you know, you go years without seeing them and then you come back and they just welcome you in like family. So it's always been a great positive environment here. And I'm glad that the hub is continuing to build up the community of skateboarders in this area. If you'd like to reach out and find more information about the hub or VSM, the organization, Doug's gonna tell you about the social media.
Social media for the hub, it's easy. It's just at VSM, the hub. We do a really big effort on all we want to do is just put out like content that's of the hub or the schedule for events of things going on at the hub. As far as it goes for our ministry, on Instagram, we have an Instagram page that's Veritas Shapes Ministries. That does everything that our ministry covers. A Facebook page for that too, that's Veritas Shapes Ministries. And then our website is probably the most informative area if you really want to know what's going on or what we're about. It's Veritas, Veritas shapes.org. So those are like the 3 main areas where you could get information. But if you want to be up to date on the events, the schedule, skate stuff going on, or what the hub's doing, definitely Instagram is kind of the bottleneck for all that stuff.
Thank you guys for checking out another episode of Skatepark Showcase. I hope you enjoyed this one. I know it was a little bit long, but I love doing these. It's so much fun when I get to go to an indoor park and actually talk with the owner of the building. Real quickly, I want to give a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters. Thank you guys so much. Your monthly donations help keep me on the road. If we can pump those numbers up, then I can do multiple of these episodes every single month. I want to keep traveling and keep showing you guys all these different parks all around the country. If you want to donate, you can just go to my Patreon at patreon.com/parksharks. As little as $1 a month can go a really, really long way. But if you can't donate or you just don't want to, there are other ways that you can support the channel. Basically, just by hitting up my social media. I've got TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Give me a follow or subscribe and make sure you hit the notification bell so you know every time that I post a video. Leave a comment, just interact with me. I like to respond and see what you guys are doing. Maybe you guys can let me know where I need to go next or just ask me about skateboarding questions in general. Thank you guys so much for checking out this episode. We're getting close to 100. I cannot wait. I'm gonna have to do something special. I don't know. Here's what's coming up next.